Now, I wrote in your book, and as I said to President Trump, I'll say to you, it's either a showstopper or a doorstopper. You can decide. He called me a couple weeks ago. He said, oh, I read your book last night. I said, you did? He said, yes. And he said, it's pretty good. Pretty good. We did a lot of great stuff together. I said, you did, Mr. President. It'll always be a privilege of my life to have been a small part of that. And he said, you think we could do it again? I said, I think if you're vintage Trump, 2015, 2016, joy in the job, connecting with people, expressing their grievances, not your own, and we look forward. We look to the future. Sure. Yes. Yes. But look, when the history books are written, Kellyanne Conway, as Charlie just said, Kellyanne Conway, first woman to successfully run a presidential campaign, you got to put the comma, and it's Donald Trump who put her there. Because he went where no Republican presidential candidate had ever even gone, by asking a woman to manage his presidential campaign. The rest of them never did that. And guys, I love you. I love all men. I see a few in this room. I really do. But in the Republican Party, they're like a walking RICO violation. I call it staph infection. So the same polling firm, literally the same pollsters who did Bob Dole, God rest his soul, Bob Dole's polling for president in 1996, they did John McCain's in 2008. They did Mitt Romney's in 2008 and then again in 2012. And then they did Jeb Bush's in 2016. And they say, oh, here we go. And I'm like, guys, the thing that all these candidates have in common is please don't come a fourth or fifth time. And I think what happens in the Republican consultancy, what did happen over years before Donald Trump, who came to the presidential race and came to Washington, and no one, nothing. I think what happened is, because he was unconventional, he wanted unconventional people. And what happens every single time, including here in Florida, is people will say, candidates often lose, consultants always win. Oh, Dole, he seemed too old. Oh, McCain, he seemed too nuts. Oh, Mitt Romney, he seemed too stiff. It's like, guys, give the money back. How is it you're trashing the candidates after the fact? And we need people who are running for office and helping them run for office who are adapting to a changing Florida, a changing America. Now, the left's going to say, well, it's changing because of this. No, it's changing because we have more and more people seeing the light and starting to believe as you do. Asking themselves, is it fair that, and however they finish the sentence, is it fair that the government takes 55% of what you earn, federal, state, and local? Is it fair that the Department of Justice is calling parents who show up at school board meetings domestic terrorists? Is it fair that we locked these kids behind computers and phones, in some places for 2 school years, parts of 2 school years, and called it school time? I have never met a single mother in this country who has said, you know what my daughter needs more time with? Her phone. You know what would really help my son? If he were staring at the computer more each day. And we hurt these kids by pretending screen time is school time. More people are coming around. And I'd love to tell you, here in Florida, of course, you're ranked 15th in terms of your state legislature, in terms of female representation, which is great. But look at these unbelievably strong women you've had. My friend Pam Bondi, you've had your Attorney General. Now you have Ashley Moody. You have Kat Kamek and Maria Salazar, brand new freshman members of Congress, Republicans, of course. You have, of course, Jeanette Nunes, your lieutenant governor, and the great Casey DeSantis, our First Lady of Florida, who's a very special person. And it goes on and on. I also like the fact that Marco Rubio is going to beat Val Demings. I like the fact that Rick Scott did beat Alex Sink. In other words, we've got, if you say, well, most women are Democrats. Listen, take heart. In 2016, we, and I mean we, all of us, not just the campaign, all of us, we beat the Queen Bee herself. We denied Hillary Rodham Clinton from being the first female president. And a majority of the voters were female. So think about that. A majority of the voters were female. felt that he hadn't erected a conventional political camp, but he built a movement, and they were a member. They could come to a rally, they could buy a hat, they could repeat what he had said to their neighbor, to their friend, to the woman in the mirror, and feel someone finally was listening to them. Someone finally was like them, an outsider to the system. And only outsiders to the system understand and appreciate and assimilate the views and the desires of other outsiders to the system, which is what most Americans feel like they are. They feel like they have their nose pressed up against the glass looking in. When is it my turn? What's in it for me? And that connective tissue, forgotten man, forgotten woman, I'll add forgotten child because I'm a big school choice charter school gal. That was so resonant. And that really is the party moving forward as well. We are the party of the job creator, the job seeker, and most importantly, the vast majority of Florida and American households, the job holders. So here in Tampa, in your great state, the convention in 2012, Mitt Romney kept saying you didn't build that, job creator, all that. That's fine, but that's about 7% of the country. And then you've got another 7% who are the job seekers. The vast majority are job holders. And you know what they're saying right now? They're not just saying, I can't afford gas and groceries, or it's a hassle, or this is unfair. You know what they're saying? Next coming down the pike, they're not going to be able to afford car payments, tuition payments, student loan payments, rent and mortgage. The fastest growing group of homeless people in this country are single moms with a job. That's a disgrace. They have no idea that you can help. They have no idea you care. They have no idea that this thing called politics can actually be a refuge for them that produces results that can actually help them. Some of them are completely apolitical, others too busy to pay attention. Others of them don't want to wear the red and the blue 24/7, 365. We're unique in that way. But there are people in your circle of life who have no idea that the message for which they're thirsting, the results they seek, are right here in this room. You're the best ambassadors for that. Forget about people on TV, forget about consultants, forget about even the candidates for a moment. You. It's you. Because they will keep seeing you in the grocery stores, at the senior centers, on the kids' playgrounds. They'll keep seeing you in the synagogues and churches and mosques. They will want to hear more from you. Why do you care? Why do you show up, stand up, and speak up? So you're the best ambassadors for that by far. And this is a wonderful time. I think it's a great time to be a Republican woman. And so Charlie Kupperman, my friend and colleague, I was not his colleague when he was working for Jack Kemp, but we became colleagues in the West Wing in the White House. Now here's a guy, unlike some of the other men I worked with, who their big decision every day was, do I go to the Four Seasons or the Ritz-Carlton for breakfast? Do I work on legs or abs before I get to the White House? I'm just like, how the hell do I get these 4 kids to school with all their limbs attached, all the homework in the bag? So by the time I got to the White House in the morning, Charlie would be, he and his boss, and he's a deputy national security advisor, big job. Deputy director of the NSC, big job in the White House. He was smart. He and Judy, of course, smart to come down here to Florida before the mass exodus to Florida. But speaking of vision, it takes an awful lot of vision to go and take a big job like that and work for a commander-in-chief of President of the United States. For the first time in history, we had no prior military or elective office experience. It's the first time ever. And Charlie will tell you, and I say it in my book, I think it was absolutely charming and determinative for Donald Trump and his victory that he did not have Washington experience. He became the wish fulfillment of people telling pollsters for decades, I want somebody with a ton of experience who's never been in Washington, who's not in politics. You're thinking, well, who could that be? That's sort of an oxymoron. How are we going to be able to fulfill that? It turns out it was a pre-verified business guy, job creator, with whom people were familiar because of his buildings, because he was a public figure, then because of his #1 TV show. But I put in the book, it was charming that Donald Trump had no prior Washington experience. It wasn't so charming that a lot of his senior advisors had no prior Washington experience. And they're very upfront about that in the book. But to have Charlie Kupperman there with his hand on the tiller is incredibly important. And you have no idea what jewels you have in Charlie and Judy Kupperman right here as your neighbors and your friends and your fellow travelers. And I just want to acknowledge that. So thank you.